We all have to work to earn a living. The search for a good job is pretty much what most of our adult lives are about. And while some take the entrepreneurial route with startups, there are some who take up extremely unusual jobs. Number 15, ostrich babysitter. Well, if you like lazing around and doing pretty much nothing during the day, then we have the perfect job for you. Ostrich babysitting, yeah! While it's pretty similar to babysitting a human kid, there is hardly any crying involved, unless it's you, and their poop doesn't need to be cleaned up. The only real thing that you do is to ensure that the ostriches don't peck each other's eyes out, and they don't run away. But truth be told, the job sounds easier than it actually is. Ostriches are known to be extremely territorial and aggressive. And because of this, they do end up hurting each other a lot. And the job of ostrich babysitters is to basically ensure that that does not happen. Number 14, chicken sexer. You know how doctors and nurses pronounce the sex of your child? Well, a chicken sexer is basically the same, except for the fact that they check the chickens. Most poultry farms have separate diets for male and female chickens, and hence, it is important to know which is which at the time of their hatching. And that is exactly what a chicken sexer does. While that doesn't sound like a very interesting career choice, roughing up baby chickens to see if they're male or female is definitely a tiresome job. And it isn't really a low-paying job either. Many farms in Britain offer up to £40,000 a year for this position. Number 13, video game tester. There are a lot of video game buffs out there who are the happiest when they are in front of a console. And while their mothers are probably worrying about them wasting away their lives, turns out it is a career option as well. With game companies developing new games almost every day, they need to know if the game is enjoyable and offers an immersive experience. That is why they hire people to play the games and give their reviews. Of course, the job involves more than just playing the game, as the review needs to be very systematic and focused on each aspect of the game, including bugs, to make sure that when the game hits the market, it sells. Number 12, dice quality inspector. A loaded dice is one of the worst things that can happen to any gambler, or one of the best things, depending on who actually calls it. But to prevent that from happening, most dices, especially the ones used in casinos, go through a series of tests under an inspector. And while that may sound like an easy job, don't be fooled. The smallest error can cost a lot, quite literally. Number 11, train stuffers. Rush hour traffic can get really bad, and while the roads may be blocked full, trains suffer pretty much the same fate, except of course that they can usually carry more people, if the passengers inside huddle together. Turns out, it is also a career choice for many. They are called Oshiya, and it all started at the Shinjuku station in Japan, when part-timers, mostly students, were employed to push people into the trains during peak hours. It is estimated that this method allows an increase of up to 221% of the normal capacity. Trust the Japanese to utilize every potential to the full extent. Number 10, cow fart smellers. Farts may be the butt of many jokes, but all said and done, they are quite nasty, especially the ones that smell. But apparently, it can tell a lot about the farter's health and what they are eating. And since cows usually eat a lot of crap, it is a good indicator of their health. Which is why people line up behind cows and wait for the fart so that they can smell it and determine if the cow is eating properly or not. And as disgusting as the job sounds, it is a pretty well-paying job, with cow fart smellers earning up to $50,000 in a year. Still, that doesn't take away the fact that the job stinks, quite literally. Number 9, tampon tester. While the name may be pretty self-explanatory, it is not done quite in the way you might think it is. Tampons are one of the essential feminine hygiene products available today, and well, if they don't work, they don't really serve any purpose. Perhaps that is why they have tampon testers, who spend their working hours checking to see if the tampons are absorbing properly and that their cords have the strength to pull them out. And it isn't an easy job, by the way. A tampon tester generally tests up to 125 tampons of different sizes in a day. Number 8, professional sleepers. All of us have that one friend who can sleep through almost anything, and when you add the fact that all of us have been created for a special purpose, you would probably discover why they are so important. Because they are in demand, not just from one industry, but from many. The first thing that probably comes to mind is research, and a lot of sleepers are called on to have a number of monitors hooked to them while they sleep to map the brain activity. And then there are those who test various mattresses to see if they are comfortable enough to sleep on. So the next time you doze off during a meeting, you can officially tell them that you are preparing for a different job. Number 7. Professional mourner. This one is probably one of the weirder ones you would come across when hunting for a job. Countries in the South Asia region of the world have a belief that the more a person is mourned after his death, the easier his passing will be into the other world. And while most of us hope that there will be enough and more mourners when we die, some are not too sure of it, and thus a new profession is created, the professional mourners. Their job entails crying at the death of a person so that they are ensured a place in heaven. And in some places, they even deliver moving eulogies. Well, so much for saying that money can't buy you love. Number 6. Professional apologizer. Apologies are difficult for everyone. Be they over some small issues like keeping a toilet seat up, or bigger issues like cheating, apologies are tough for almost everyone. But then there are some who are really good at it, so why shouldn't they put their skills up for a few bucks? Their job skills are kind of inherent, as we really don't think a happy and forgivable face is something you can practice. But there are other skills involved, like being on your feet, formulating appropriate responses, and in general, giving out a feeling of warmth and sympathy. So the next time anyone points out that you are too apologetic, don't feel sorry, and start charging money for it. Number 5. Odor judge. Some noses are so finely tuned that they can detect smells even when others don't. And if you think that applies to you, you're in luck. You're probably even a sought-after employee for many industries, especially the deodorant one. But, well, the job does come with its own baggage, or should we say armpit. One of the most important things that an odor judge has to do is pretty icky, as it involves smelling up to 60 armpits in an hour. That's an armpit a minute. Of course, there are other icky things that odor judges have to do, like smelling bad breaths. But then there are more normal ones, like sniffing up paper towels. Well, so much for putting your nose in other people's business. Number 4. Bed warmer. People usually crave for clean sheets when they check into a hotel. And if there is any sign that someone has already been in the bed after cleaning, the hotel is bound to lose some money. But as it turns out, there is a way for hotels to make a lot of money by paying people to snuggle into beds before the actual guests do. Yes, that's right. A number of hotels hire people to warm up the beds so that the guests get a better sleep. And if you're getting a queasy feeling, don't worry. This usually happens on a guest's request. But what is even more intriguing is that people are even hiring these bed warmers to warm up their beds at home. Getting under the sheets just got better, didn't it? Number 3. Beer tester. If someone told you that all you have to do to make a living is to drink beer, you would give them an arm and a leg for such a job, right? Well, as it happens, such a job profile does exist, and it is a pretty lucrative one. Breweries are frequently coming up with new flavors, and someone needs to taste them. And that's where a beer tester comes in. Not a bad job, right? Number 2. Drying paint watcher. One way in which paint companies advertise their wares is how fast their paint dries. And it is not a rough estimate either. They actually pay to have someone watch over the paint as it dries and observe the changing color and particles of the drying paint. And while it sounds tedious, the study actually involves more than just idling around and waiting for the paint to dry. They study the paint under different magnifications while it dries to monitor its texture and hue. Still, we couldn't help but yawn when we came across that job. Number 1. Dog breath sniffer. Dogs sniff, and almost anything at that, including the butts of humans. So is it really that weird to think that we would return the favor to our furry little friends? Turns out there is a job profile which involves smelling a dog. Not its butt, mind you, but its breath. And what does that help us with? Well, dogs have pretty awful breath, and sniffers help draw up the ingredients for dog food, which makes it a little more tolerable for their owners. Every dog might have its day, but we hope that dog breath sniffers have theirs too. This was our list of some of the weirdest jobs that people are actually paid to do in the world. If you think of more jobs, let us know in the comments. And if you liked our video, be sure to subscribe. It's free to get an alert every time we put up a video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.